What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the WGC Mexico Championships. This is a tournament. It's being held at Club de Golf de Chapultepec. That is probably the only time I will say that during this video. It's only the third year of this course, so we don't have a lot of great history. What you might remember about this last year, besides Phil winning, is that this plays at high altitude. So it's going to be a course where all of these guys are going to be pretty long. They're going to be hitting it a lot further than usual. So don't be shocked when you see, I think it says 7,300 yards on the scorecard. It's a par 71. It's going to play a lot shorter than that at high altitude. So keep that in mind. We don't have a lot of great stats, but we will look at approach like we normally do because I think that's going to be important. And with it being a WGC, it is a no-cut event. So we're looking for birdie makers. We're looking for guys that are going to play 4 rounds and just rack it up one way or another. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. All right, and here's the cheat sheet for this week. And what you'll notice is even with only, I believe, 72 players currently in the field, I know Adam Scott is no longer playing. I know that Justin Rose is no longer playing. And there's one more. Oh, Jason Day is not going to make the trip to Mexico. So those guys are taking the week off. But otherwise, we have a lot of the studs here playing as we normally would. Still 6 guys over $10,000, led by Justin Thomas, who punted away the Genesis last week, but still had an awesome showing. 11,800, DJ 11.5, Rory 11.1, John Rahm 10.7. Ricky makes an appearance over 10,000 off of his Waste Management win, and Bryson DeChambeau rounds out that top tier at exactly $10,000. With a short field this week, and you get a pretty diverse field, right? I mean, you get a bunch of guys down at the bottom in the 6Ks that you probably can't play. It's going to make roster construction even more important this week. So looking at kind of, game theory optimal way to play this, Bryson at 10,000 and Justin Thomas, so the two ends of this. You assume that a lot of owners will opt to finish somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to try to target the two ends of this $10,000 range. So Bryson at 10,000 and JT at 11,008. And the reason I like them specifically, I mean, I love all of these guys, obviously, but both of those guys are over 30% birdie or better rates. So when you're playing 4 rounds and you're guaranteed to play all 4, I want birdie makers. So Bryson is pretty appealing because he's quietly just been racking up like top 10s, top 15s. It hasn't been anything outrageous like we saw that run earlier in the year, but the win at the Shriners, 7th at the Tournament of Champions, which again is a no-cut event, 10th at the Sony, 15th at the Genesis. There's no wins in there. There's no, or I guess there is a win at the Shriners, but you know what I mean? Like there's no recent wins in 2019. There's no top 5s in 2019, but very, very solid. And he's a guy that can just pile on the birdies. JT is the much more obvious scorching hot player who can do it all. He's got great course history here. DeChambeau has never played in this event, so tough to look for it there. I wonder if that's going to drive his ownership down because you can go to any one of these other guys in the $10,000 range. All right, now as a lot of as we've seen a lot of these fields, the real money making is like this 8,500 to 9,500 range. This is where they stack a bunch of these guys that could potentially win this. You can get as many of them in your lineup as possible to kind of fill it out and hope to hit on a bunch here. So let's just kind of talk through this. Brooks we haven't seen since the Tournament of Champions. How's that going to impact his ownership? Tiger, makes that, I guess it was a Sunday charge, which is his 3rd round into his 4th round at the Genesis. Everyone's going to be interested in Tiger. Phil is your defending champion, and he's been red hot recently. Like that, I think Tiger and Phil suck up a lot of ownership here, especially from the casuals. But then you get Xander, and I want to point something out here really quickly. And this is actually a new tool here. So I've just kind of updated the player profiles. So I've added what you see in the middle here is the strokes gained per round. So I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I was having a little bit of trouble with my strokes gained data over the course of the last couple weeks. It just it wasn't coming in from my data provider fast enough, quite honestly. So what I've done is I've changed it out, and now I've got it all reset back up. It took me like a week or two, but we're ready to rock and roll here. So I've got strokes gained per round here, which is pretty interesting. So here's JB. Per round at the Genesis. This is strokes gained total. And then I can flip to tee to green. I can see his putting stats. And again, it's per round. So this one round at AT&T Pebble Beach, remember, we only had ShotLink data at Pebble Beach, and JB missed the cut. So that's one round there. One round at the Farmers, again, JB missed the cut, and we only had ShotLink data for the South Course. So this will start to fill out more as the year goes on. We're done doing the course rotations. We should have a lot more ShotLink data, but you'll be able to see it by round here. And then down here at the bottom, this is per tournament. So what this says, strokes gained total 4.1. JB Holmes averages per tournament 4.1 strokes gained total. So that's what we're looking at here. All right, but what I want to show you is this. If I flip over to Xander, first of all, just kind of looking at his past performances, wins the Tournament of Champions, which is, again, small, no-cut field. Doesn't play particularly well at either the Farmers, the Waste Management, or the Genesis, and racks up 3 top 25s, a 25th, a 10th, and a 15th. This is last week, okay? So if you look at this, basically one round has kind of doomed Xander each of his last 2 starts. His Waste Management Friday, he lost strokes to the field. Otherwise, he was pretty great. We'll compare that to Ricky Fowler in a second. I haven't looked at that yet. But then look at this last week, okay? So last week, a brutal first round, and then he finishes it with gaining 3.5, 3.8, and 3.2 strokes per round over his last 3 rounds there. So if you look at this, if we go back to JB, let's go back to JB real quick. Okay. Xander's second, third, and fourth rounds in terms of strokes gained were all better than the guy who eventually ended up winning this thing. It's just that JB gained 7.5 strokes on the field in round 1 of the Genesis that he just basically got out ahead and held on tight. So Xander charging, the fact that he racks up 3 better rounds than the eventual champion is pretty interesting. And I've not looked at this one yet. We're going to look up Ricky and see what Ricky did at the Waste Management. Here you go. Okay, so Ricky was 6.4 on Thursday, 5.6 on Friday, 5.5 on Saturday, and then he lost strokes. So Xander was not that good on the first 3 rounds, I don't think, but played much better overall than I think people want to give him credit for because of, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, he was pretty good. Than what we want to give credit for his finishing position. It's just basically been one round that has kind of punted him away. So Xander's going to get a lot of my attention here at $9,100, and I think that he fits the mold, and you can get a lot of these guys like Xander, Hideki, Finau. Those are 3 guys you want to roster in no-cut events. They've shown they can make a ton of birdies, and they've shown that they perform well. Hideki has won a couple of WGCs before, similar to Justin Thomas as well. Guys where you always give 4 rounds, they tend to perform really well. All right, we're going to flip over to another tool here real quick, but before I do, Sergio's pretty sneaky here. $8,000. He's a little bit more expensive than Gary Woodland, who I think will be popular. And he's got 2 really good finishes here. 12th 2 years ago, a 7th last year. Everyone hates him, right? So already his ownership is lower than it always should be because everyone kind of hates him. And if we go back to Sergio, so now I'm on Sergio's player profile page, and we only have his strokes gained data for the Genesis. An absolutely brutal round 1 for him. Lost 4.5 strokes to the field. He then gets it all back, gains 4.5 strokes on the field in round 2, barely to make the cut, right? I believe he makes the cut on the number. Then he gains 1.8 and 1.2 strokes on the field in the final 2 rounds to finish 37th, right? So good to see him making a charge, and he's got good course history here. I just think you get him at a really good ownership number. And before we move away from this cheat sheet for a second, Charles Howell, I've just continued to play, and he's continued to reward me. You can see he's only $7,800, another 6th place finish. Kuchar again down here at $7,700. It's pretty wild. Trying to find if there's anybody who has good course history. Is this Hatton? I played Hatton last week, and he burned me, although he kind of just punted it all away on the last few, like 6 holes on Friday, I believe, which was his second round. He actually started off pretty well, and then he just ejected, but that's a 10th and a 3rd place finish. I wonder if I'll buy back in on Hatton here. Let's see. Anybody else I might want to point out? No, that's probably good. So let's flip over to the strokes gained tool, which is another one I've kind of reworked a bit this week. So let's see here. So now what you're able to do is as usual, you're able to see strokes gained versus salary, but now you can look at each one of the individual strokes gained numbers. So let's just go through these pretty quickly. Strokes gained total to salary is pretty, it's pretty well done here, right? There's no true outliers. Xander's the second best in average strokes gained total, and he's only $9,400. Leishman would also be on the right side of this, right? 7.7 strokes gained per event, only 8,900. Kuchar would be on the right side of this. Cam Smith, Hatton, Siwoo Kim. Those are all guys that are leading their respective pricing tiers. Guys that would actually fall behind a bit would be like DJ, just not, by this sense, worth the $11,400 when he's only averaging 5 strokes gained per event total. John Rahm, Phil Mickelson, Bubba, and of course Jordan Spieth would also be on the wrong side of this. So that's total. So that's what you would normally see. Let's go to approach, because I think approach is going to be super, super important this week. And what you see is this right here. JT far and away ahead of the field. Like, it's not even close. He is top right of this graph by a mile, averaging 7.75 strokes gained in only approach per tournament. Then there's a pretty big gap, and you see that Sergio also stands out here again. So this is only one tournament for Sergio. It's only 4 rounds, but he gains 5.3 strokes on approach at the Genesis. He's only $8,200. Danny Willett and Keegan down here in the $7,300 price range. Again, there are some more similar names. Cam Smith pops up again. Mark Leishman pops up again. You get Hideki here. So we're starting to see a bit of a trend on the types of players that we would want to roster. Let's go off the tee here, just to show you that. So the way that Bubba has really done his damage is off the tee. You can see he's kind of falling behind in a lot of other places, but a significant, outlier here. He is the man on off the tee. Rory is awesome. Bryson, John Rahm, and actually, Hatton. This is why I ended up playing Hatton last week, right? Is his stats did pop off. And I'm probably going to be forced to have to go back to him again this week because the metrics are still there. He has a really good course history. Now the ownership on him would probably be even lower because he just missed the cut. But again, a really weird event at the Genesis. You can, these guys having to squeeze 4 rounds into 3 days and playing a lot and sitting around and waiting. Like, you can make excuses for a lot of these guys. And Hatton basically just ejected on 6 holes. I don't think it was nearly as bad as what the final scorecard ends up saying. And once he got outside the cut line, he just continued to blow it all. And then here's putting. So again, you're going to really want to look at sample sizes here. We have JT for 16 rounds. We have Bryson for 12. We have Xander for probably enough. Yeah, 16. So same names here. I'm going to be focusing my core on Thomas, DeChambeau, Xander, Leishman. The value here, again, Kuchar, Cam Smith, even Siwoo Kim shows up, Putnam and Kiradech, Affy Barnrat, if you're wanting to go that low. So the same types of names showing up. And then I also reworked this Who's Hot tool. So this is actually pretty cool where I'm basically looking back at currently, so the ranges will change, but currently a 90-day look back window to see what like your baseline is for each one of these strokes gained numbers, and then comparing it to your 30-day strokes gained. And again, it's small sample sizes that we have going on right now, so bear with me, but this is pretty slick. You could see Bubba recently playing out of his mind compared to how he was playing, 3 months ago, for example, is what this is saying. Additional hot players would be Reed, Justin Thomas, of course, Aaron Wise, Kadira, Paul Casey, Hideki. Again, this is to their own baseline. This is not to the, just the field average strokes gained, right? This is to each of these players' baselines. The cold players are actually Xander and Leishman pop up on the cold side of this, the 4th and 5th coldest players, for example, in strokes gained total. And that could be just because of how hot they were at for example, the Tournament of Champions, which is outside the look back window for this. So keep all of that in mind. And as we get more rounds in, this is going to be more interesting. But I can also show you, I want to finish up and show you approach here, because I think this is also going to be an important stat this week. And it's similar players, right? Aaron Wise pops out, Kadira, Patrick Reed, Bubba, Hideki. Those are your top 5 in off the tee stats for guys that have enough rounds to kind of qualify for this. And then let's look off the tee. Again, Paul Casey playing well, Bubba, Putnam, Bradley, Hideki. So this is a tool that we'll continue to look at over the course of the year. And as we get more shot link rounds, now that we're through kind of the course rotations and all that garbage, and guys are getting into their full swing of tournaments, this will become more interesting. But again, I'm focusing a lot of my attention on that core of guys who can make a lot of birdies, who are playing well right now, or even outside of just one bad round each week, like someone like a Xander. And then I'm going to try to stock up on as many of those 85 to 9,500 type players and go from there. Let me know what you think. It's a really interesting course this week. We should see some interesting shots and some different things. Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. Later.